Discovery Weekly.
Welcome to Discovery Weekly, a bonus show from the podcast Discovery Show, where we talk about everything else we discover throughout the week that is not podcast related. I'm Zach.
I'm Kirk.
And I'm Matt.
And speaking of Matt, I'm not Matt, but I have a discovery.
Nice.
There, I read an article about a whole batch of new experiments that are headed to the ISS on the 10th, which I don't know when this will come out in relation, but soon. They're heading there soon, and we're going to get to learn about all the cool stuff they're going to be working on.
What do we got?
So, first thing they're working on, they wanted to figure out a way. I mean, maybe, but they're not going to tell us about it. It's got to be a secret. I mean, space travel,
Light
kind
speed.
of ongoing experiment. You get, I guess,
Hypersleep.
you know.
Can you breathe in space? No, just kidding.
I think they've nailed that one down pretty much instantly.
Is it a yes?
The answer is no.
The answer is no. It's bad. Don't try and breathe in nothing.
Okay.
But no, what they wanted to figure out is, okay, they keep talking about that base on the moon. Everybody is it's kind of like a meme right now, but it is something they want to do. But what they can't do is send like shipping containers or whatever they want to build out of. You know, they can't send the materials. It would be so heavy and so costly that they have to figure out a way to make materials on the moon. And so what they're sending
we talked about this.
is pieces for a 3D printer that uses the dirt from the moon to make paneling. And
we didn't talk about that. That's crazy.
So they're not doing, I guess, a full build or anything. They're sending like a test sized one. So what they're going to do is they're calling it a 3D regolith printer that is basically going to, you use right now synthetic, or I think they're using like dust type particles from volcanic areas because it's fairly similar. You know, a lot of times on Earth, we'll use like volcanic areas to replicate what it would be like on a foreign planet. But you use fiber or substance like that, and it will extrude paneling. So they're going to see if the premise here is, can we use moon dust to make the walls of what would eventually be a lunar base?
Wow.
Tight.
Wow.
That's
I can't even
so smart.
get my printer to work.
We have problems with our printer all the time.
Waka waka. Anyway, what else is there?
But yeah. Anyways, let's move on from me saying waka
Back to
waka
you,
to
Zach.
the next thing. Waka waka, back to you. But they essentially want to make sure that this technology works in low gravity. You know, so that's the part they're testing here. The next thing they're doing is they're sending muscle cells to test essentially muscle atrophy, because it's a problem on Earth and it's a problem in space. They're caused by different things. There's apparently on Earth, it's called sarcopenia, but it's something that comes with aging, and it's literally your muscles wasting. You know, so your muscles kind of breaking down with age. But as we've seen from like astronauts on the ISS and things like that, you have muscle degeneration in general because we're not using the gravity that we have evolved with and are like used to. So your muscle just kind of breaks down. And so what they're doing is they're sending muscle cells, and I think it's literally like 3 cells. I don't even know how they begin to do this, but they've sent 3 muscle cells, and then they have essentially the protocol for once this kit gets up there, they're
What do you
going
mean by
to
cells? Like microscopic cells of a muscle?
100%. This entire experiment is microscopic.
Oh my God. I think you
but-
misread that. I think they're sending mussels up to the ISS astronauts to eat them with spaghetti.
Just mussels like seafood.
Yeah.
In like served on ice. It could be that too, but I think it's
Okay.
different.
Okay.
But yeah, they're sending these things up there, and they're going to have to watch it over, I think it's only about a week, because it's like cellular growth. It's very, very, very quick, but small. So they're going to test to see if different types of treatments can reverse or slow the degeneration of the muscle tissue. And so they're doing this on a small scale because it's the ISS. Anything you send that's big, there's nowhere to put it. You have to do everything small. The last one that they talk about, and there's 3 more that are going up here, and they're kind of shortly mentioned, but there is one called Le Blob. And this is a French experiment that is, it's kind of a cool premise in general. What they're testing is learning, and they're doing that with they're calling it a unicellular slime mold that looks like scrambled eggs, and it quickly doubles in size and can make decisions like mapping the most efficient routes for transit between like food. So they have
okay.
Yeah, hold on.
So this is
it's
this is
literally
an intelligent egg slime. Like, what is this?
It's not actually egg. It looks like, have you ever seen like bacteria in a petri dish type thing? Here, and I'll share the link with you guys. Once again, these links are always in the show notes for everyone
slime
to check
mold
out.
that knows the best directions.
That's what I was.
No, that's
uncle?
what they're testing. Yeah, because essentially they always go for the most efficient route because it costs them energy. So it's based on efficiency of getting there. And so what they did is that right now it's dormant. And it's going up there and it's in like, it's tiny. Once again, it's tiny. And once it's in orbit, all they do is put water on it. And then they're going to give it cereal in a couple different places and watch it. But the researcher, Audrey Dussatour, I think, I'm bad with French, I'm sorry. But her whole premise is educational. So she is also sending essentially a copy of Le Blob to a bunch of schools in France. And all of these schools are going to get to watch what happens with theirs, and they're going to be able to compare it with a time lapse that's created on the International Space Station. And so they will get to see, basically they're going to be able to participate pretty actively in like a collaborative experiment with the ISS, which is a pretty cool thing.
Whoa. My brain immediately thought that this slime mold was going to they're like, take the wheel, slime mold. Get us home.
You are the captain now, slime mold.
Let's
slime
see if you can do it.
Take the wheel.
Man, that's a song I haven't heard in a minute. There is 3 more experiments that are going to be going up here this week as we're recording this. A tech demo of a carbon dioxide removal system for a spacecraft, a fluids experiment related to thermal systems for space vehicles and life support, and they're also trying to test an affordable 3D printed heat shield that will ride up to the ISS and then be placed back aboard to shoot it back into the planet and test it. So they're going to test several different things and all in one shipment. And I just had to talk about all these experiments that are going to be happening at one time.
And we had to constantly derail you.
No, and I mean, that's part of the fun. It's part of the fun.
Speaking of really interesting technologies, I found out that there's actually a decently interesting technology from where panko breading comes from.
Huh.
I never would have. And I will be honest, like there's this whole article. I think it's from a company that actually makes panko. So it's a little biased.
A little conflict of interest there.
Because
big
basically,
panko.
I will say this whole article, they talk crap about breadcrumbs so hard.
Yeah.
So funny.
It's the big panko.
What a funny
lobby.
But it is interesting because like, why is it? It's different. Like it's like breadcrumbs, but it's not. And this is why. Panko breadcrumbs are not actually breadcrumbs, technically. Well, I guess they technically are, but anyway, they're baked using electrical current only.
What?
It's a very unique method that was developed during World War II out of a necessity to cook bread without access to an oven.
Whoa. What?
So it's this ingenious process that results in this whole loaf of bread without any crust.
What?
Yeah.
I have to look this up.
Wait, can you watch this happen? Can you watch them make
not
panko?
on this video, but I bet you
it's proprietary.
I bet you they do. No. Well, I'm sure that there are videos. I don't know.
Those idiot breadcrumb guys can't look at our technologies.
Because it sounds like a fascinating process. I'm sure that there's a way to look it up. I need to look it up. Authentic panko will start with blending dough using a very short list of ingredients: flour, sugar, shortening, yeast, salt, which is then allowed to rise several times until it achieves the right texture and strength. Each loaf is baked in a specially designed oven, which uses electrical current instead of heat, creating a crustless loaf of bread with millions of tiny little air pockets. The bread is then carefully staled and ground, creating a light and delicate sliver-shaped breadcrumb. So that's why it's not like the shape of regular breadcrumbs, because it's like this loaf of bread that doesn't have a crust, and it's got all these air pockets in it. And
I like this
I just thought it was
because
fascinating.
No, it definitely is because, okay, to be fair, the most I'd ever thought about panko is like, okay, that's good. And that's kind of it. I never really I thought it was like, I had no clue on what the difference is. Like, what I knew it was different. I didn't realize it was that different though, where they electrocute some dough until it turns into panko.
Whoa. I kind of have I just was searching this. There's a Wikipedia article on crustless bread. It's a very short thing, but I feel like it will supplement what you just said.
Yeah,
pretty great.
do it.
Yeah. Crustless bread is bread without crusts. Panko is made from bread.
That did supplement. I did not. I learned
no.
so much.
And it says exactly what you said. The British food group RHM manufactures a crustless bread targeted at children called Hovis Invisible Crust, which is produced by baking the bread at a low temperature. Here you go. Measurable nutritional loss can result from omitting crusts from bread. Bread crusts are higher in the antioxidants pronolysine than the inner portion of the bread. Crusts from darker breads in particular contain higher amounts of this antioxidant, which is being researched for its potential colorectal cancer inhibitory properties.
What? Okay. That is a great ad because now I have a billion more questions. Why is the crust different than the bread? It's not different.
Yeah.
Like,
this is going to be a deep dive that we do later.
We'll circle back to this.
My discovery is bread.
You want to learn about some bread?
Wow, that is fascinating.
I did not know that. I do know that like a lot of kids don't like crust. I always liked it, but that was definitely a weird thing I did. I was just like eat the crust and then I'd eat a crustless sandwich afterwards. But I was like I think it was mostly just bored, maybe undiagnosed ADD, who knows? But I did that when I was in elementary school.
Dang. But it was a short article, but I thought it was fascinating because I didn't know that it was made using electricity, and I just thought that was crazy.
Yeah, I will be.
And it was made in World War II, like this technology that was made during the war.
I definitely need to see what an electricity oven looks like that just electrocutes things into cooking.
They just put a loaf of or a ball of dough on old Sparky. Just let it go.
Old Sparky. You know those things you can get at Spencer's where you put your hands on, the lightning bolts go to your hand?
It's that.
They put the dough on top of that, and that's how you make panko.
That's panko. Speaking of panko, which is a thing often used in Japanese food, which was where the Olympics were. The Olympics just finished, and in honor of that, I thought I would talk about 1904's St. Louis Olympic Marathon, which is supposedly the strangest race in Olympic history. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on who the athletes were. Well, some of them, I suppose. So first thing that I noticed when I was investigating this is the runners are not like athletes.
I mean, what year did you say this was?
This was 1904.
So yeah,
they're really just pulling from anybody. They're like, you want to do the Olympics? It's like, okay.
I saw that guy named Ted run one time. He can do it.
So of the runners who stood on the marathon starting line, a handful had run previously in the Boston Marathon. So a handful of them. But mainly the field was comprised of a hodgepodge collection of middle distance specialists or distance running novices who had never attempted anything like a marathon in their lives before.
First time running, long time. I'm here for the Olympics.
The Olympics.
One of the runners, Cuba's Felix Carvajal, I think, arrived ready to race, fully dressed in long trousers, a white shirt, and walking shoes. Taking pity on him, a fellow competitor cut off his trouser at the knees in order to make it easier for him to race. Two of the competitors, Lynn Tanyani and Jen Mashiani, were members of the South African Swana tribe who were in St. Louis because of the World Fair. The historic importance of their participation was probably unknown at the time, as they were the first Black Africans to compete in the modern Olympic Games.
What?
But nobody knew about that.
Just because they were like on vacation?
No,
Yeah.
at the
Visiting
World's
the World's
Fair.
Fair?
That's like the famous one. 1904, I think, was the big one. Like that was the momentous,
Okay,
huge
do we
World's
not
Fair.
have the World's Fair anymore?
I
when
think
was
we probably
the last
do,
one?
but it's just like the new Beanie Baby that's coming out. It's not
just
like
a
it doesn't have
Comic-Con
the
or
same.
something.
It sounded like looking at the things that they used to do. They look so cool.
I'm gonna
Anyway,
look that
sorry,
up right now.
I
Go
got-
ahead, Matt.
Also,
No,
I didn't
no, I
know
was
the
gonna
Boston
say
Marathon was
also-
that old because you said some of these people had already run in the Boston Marathon.
Some
I
of
did not
it.
know that was that old. That's crazy.
Yeah. And I read this in another article talking about this exact same race. One of the guys was a part-time clown.
So he's a juggalo.
Yeah, exactly. Who we
I'm kidding.
respect immensely on this show. Just throwing that out there. So the race begins. It's like the hottest, most humid day that like has ever been in the Olympics, which is crazy. I will also say there was some doctor that wasn't letting the runners stop because he was researching the effects of dehydration.
Old medicine was the
It's
best.
like I'm gonna see how thirsty I get until I almost die.
Yeah. So this entire thing is 25 miles essentially, or 24 miles. Let me see. 32 entrants began the race that afternoon. By the end of the day, only 14 would finish. The winning athlete.
I'm unfortunately getting ahead of you because this is a crazy article. This is insane.
It's insane. The winning athlete is quoted as saying, "The terrific hills simply tear a man to pieces." Let's see. We'll keep going down.
That's an amazing soundbite.
Cuba's Felix Carvajal was trotting along at a reasonable pace when hunger caused him to stop at an orchard to snack on some apples. but unfortunately for him, the apples were rotten, and the stomach cramps that ensued caused the athlete to lie prostrate by the side of the road, where he proceeded to take a nap. and the next line is great. He still finished fourth.
Oh my god! Okay,
it's so good. That whole paragraph was my favorite thing I read in a very long time.
I really need this. Like, I need this in my life. Not an Olympics of people that are trained specifically year round for an event. Just like kind of throw some people together. And like, honestly, this sounds like the most amazing shit show you could possibly watch. And like, I want to see this.
Yeah. Don't get the fittest people, get the lowest rung. Like, that would be so great to just see like the non-athlete Olympics. And I'm sure like sketches have been written where that is the premise. But my God, 1904, that's what it was. It was a joke. Like this guy ate an apple, got sick, and then took a nap.
And still got fourth. What was everybody else doing? I mean, to be fair, if like say us, if we were to go just try and run a marathon, we would be lying prostrate on the side of the road after eating bad apples too.
God. Okay, so the director of the 1904 Olympics, James Sullivan, stated that a run of that distance was "quote unquote" indefensible on any ground, but historic.
I like how he's even like, nobody should have to run that far. That's stupid.
Yeah.
So there's another guy that I guess breathed in so much dust from the roads that he had a near fatal stomach hemorrhage.
Oh, that's right. Yes, because all of these cars were following them to like track their progress.
Oh my
with this
god!
dehydration.
Of course they were.
And the fumes and dust and everything just took
And my
them out.
favorite one, other than Cuba's Felix, is the South African guy.
Oh yeah. Pretty great. Where was it? Tayane, on the other hand, had proved to be a very able runner and was well positioned until a pack of wild dogs chased him a mile off course.
Like, nobody even did anything to prepare for this. There's just dogs running around.
Not just dogs, wild dogs. If I remember correctly, there's one guy who was gambling or something. I gotta find it again. But it's just insane. It's absolutely insane. I highly recommend. I wish there was like video during the 1904 Olympics, because this would be an amazing thing to watch.
Yes.
But none of these runners would ever do this again to be in the Olympics.
No.
They're like, that was a terrible experience. I'm not doing it again.
Yeah, they might have been
the guy that won. His name was Thomas Hicks. It was the slowest in history of 3 hours and 28 minutes. And it says that when he got near the end, it says his eyes were dull, lustreless, and ashen color of his face, and the skin had deepened. His arms appeared as weights well tied down, and he could scarcely lift his legs, while his knees were almost stiff. And it was funny because it said he was at the finish line, but he was hallucinating that he still had another 20 miles to run. So he was carried over the line by his trainers, his legs moving backwards and forwards through the air as he was still running. So he didn't even run the last bit because he was hallucinating and he had to get carried over.
We got to get this guy. He's running in circles. Somebody get him.
I also have to say, too, Carvajal gained sponsorship from the Greek government to run a marathon in Athens in 1906, but he never arrived at the race, and newspapers in his home country proclaimed him dead. A year later, he arrived safe and well in Havana. His whereabouts during the previous year, a complete mystery.
What?
Dude, this guy's awesome. We need to do a deep dive on that guy.
He got sponsored to go eat more apples.
I mean, this is 1904. He could have just gotten on the wrong boat. And he's like, well,
he was
true. Oh, is this the
he
blue
probably
boat?
Was like, I just get all this money, right? And I'm just not going to go. I'm just going to keep the money and go on a year-long vacation.
It's amazing. This is
all of that,
literally like a Monty Python sketch.
All of that is amazing.
A great discovery. That's amazing.
My God. Okay, so this is I'm going to have to figure out how to navigate this one. So I read an article about using ice. So there's these things called ice pits, and they were in Persia. And this was, even by 400 BC, was a way that they were making ice in a desert. And it looks like, it honestly kind of looks like a soft serve ice cream top. It's like a little pillar thing. It's got a hole at the top. And they used evaporative cooling to make ice in the desert, because a lot of times in the desert, it gets below freezing at night anyways. Mm-hmm. And so what they would do is they would put ice in the bottom. They made this out of a hydrophobic like pitch, essentially. So it's like, here's the mixture. It's a type of mortar called sarouge. And it's composed of sand, clay, egg whites, lime, goat hair, and ash in specific proportions, so water will not absorb into it. And it's built tiered up to a point so that cool air can come in and warm air can go out. And through all of that, the water is evaporating and creating a giant conical evaporative cooler. And so it is significantly cooler in this building than outside of it. And then when it freezes at night, it can literally create ice in a desert. And so people were not only using ice, they have one of their traditional like dishes in Persia was a frozen dessert. In like literally there's records of these going back to 400 BC.
What?
And then that got me into this whole ancient Egyptians used ice for same thing. Like they would cool down beverages and things. A lot of times this was imported. So the vast majority of kind of the understanding of this came from like, okay, you're in the Arctic Circle, you kill a moose, and you find out naturally that freezing it's going to keep your moose better longer because you can't keep it warm. So you just find out that it freezes and it stays. And so that was kind of the origins of it. But then everybody started figuring out how to do it. And a lot of this was importing from, they would find mountainous regions and they would import ice. And it was something that only really like luxury royalty type figures could do for a really long time, aside from a couple places where there was innovation like this, like the ice pits in Persia. But then I get to when this kind of started affecting America specifically. And there was a guy in the late 1800s who became kind of the guy who made this a thing. And he was essentially his name was Frederick Tudor, and he earned the nickname Ice King, which is kind of a dope nickname. But he basically was like, he started seeing how in England and in other places they had ice pits. Well, something similar. They would build cellars essentially that they would insulate, and it would keep everything cooler. And so he's like, I'm going to take this to the next level. We're going to start getting ice. But he would literally use lakes. He would wait until the lakes froze in the winter. He would make sure they were thick enough so that he could ship them. And they would go out there and they would like scrape all the ice all the snow off the ice. They would cut it and they would break it like by hand, and they would ship it wherever. And that literally led to not only like, okay, things can be cooler now, but like a complete change in how we were able to store food. Because before this, it was basically make enough food to eat that time, or like that's why stews were so popular, is you could just kind of keep them hot. But before that, there was no leftovers. That was not a thing. That's a thing that has only been allowed because of the ability to refrigerate food. And so he kind of was one of the next stepping points in America of, okay, now people have ice. So then they invented ice boxes, the early version of the refrigerator, where you literally just put a huge chunk of ice in a box that was like a cooler, and it would be better than room temperature, and you could keep some stuff a little longer. But then eventually the refrigerator itself would come and completely change it. But that was around the world wars, like right in between them, 30s-ish. And then essentially World War II happened, and so everything kind of got shifted again. But in the 30s, refrigerators started to happen. And that is also when Tupperware was invented, because essentially it was another way to make leftovers a thing. Literally, this all happened in like the 30s. Before that, there was no, what are we going to do with the leftovers? Okay, we got to eat what we had. Making more than you needed was not a thing until the 30s. But because of this, it became that. And did you know that the man who created Tupperware was named Tupper? I didn't realize that was like a name thing. His name was
didn't know that.
Earl Silas Tupper. And he was an American businessman and inventor. And he basically got all this because he was using polyethylene slag, a waste product of the oil refining process given to him by his supervisor at DuPont.
What?
And through this, he purified it and created lightweight, non-breakable containers, cups, bowls, plates, and even gas masks during World War II. Because like everybody else during World War II, you had to shift production to the war effort. And so Tupperware was one of the first people to do what has now been perverted into oblivion, the kind of the party marketing, where you would have a Tupperware party. They literally pulled their Tupperware from retail stores so that you could only buy them at these parties, because then it made people go to the parties. It made like a little cultural thing happen. And now that's been rapidly abused by multi-level marketing, which Tupperware was
all
too.
These pyramid schemes.
Yeah. No, I mean,
and they probably were too. I don't know.
It was. Yeah. No, it was. I mean, I don't think it was as predatory, but go ahead, Matt.
It couldn't be a Tupperware party unless Earl actually showed up.
Unless the Tupper was there.
He's like, it's not a Tupperware party without Earl Cyrus Tupper, baby.
Without the Tups. You need the Tups in here.
Tups in the house.
The Tups, man.
But yeah, no, that was another thing that like, it was something we all took for granted, because definitely growing up, and my grandmother probably literally has Tupperware from a Tupperware party, like, because it's like, you know what I'm talking about? It's like orange or like that green 60s era looking Tupperware. I guarantee it's the same stuff. But it just was kind of something that was part of our consciousness. But like, it also extended food life. Like you could then have leftovers. You could make enough food for everybody, and you wouldn't have to cook every single night. You could redo these things. And all of that was just like my long mental rabbit trail I took after reading that people used ice a really long time ago. But yeah, no, all of that has been, it has continued to kind of expound on itself to the place where everything we have now has been drastically changed by refrigeration and like being able to harness cold to preserve food.
Yeah. That's weird to think.
I have a discovery, guys, and it's a short one, but it's just, I feel like both of mine were really short, but
I can't wait for
I
this.
came across them and I'm like, I have to talk about it because it's just so fascinating.
Yeah, I need you to talk about it. We both just see like the listing of what it is on our notes here.
Yeah.
And we're we are intrigued already.
Yeah.
I found an article about fossilized farts. And it's from fossilhub.org, which is a thing.
Fossil Hub.
It says, there are people out there who don't think paleontology is astonishing, and they are quite wrong. To prove this, here's a 20 million old cockroach fart, fossilized in amber. And then there's a picture. It's so, this whole article, it's more of like how this person discovered that it was fossilized farts that they had found. But the fact that it exists to me was fascinating. And they do have a great tongue-in-cheek way in writing it. It says, the late lamented Doctor Who once told me, serendipity is looking for a needle in a haystack and finding the farmer's daughter. I think my version is now looking for an expert on fungal nodules and finding the world's oldest fossilized fart. Because that's what this whole story is about. This person had found some amber and it had bugs in it. And there was all of these little white specks or blobs or bubbles in the amber.
Wow.
And they were thinking it may have been like the oldest fungus ever found, And so they started shopping around to other scientists and experts. And nope, it was just farts. Because the specific one that they found was termites. And the expert says termites eat dead plants. To be able to digest dead plants, you need masses of gut microbia. As the dead plants are digested by the gut microbia, gases are produced. So what you're seeing are lots of termites with clear fossilized farts.
Whoa. A little sub-discovery. Termites fart a lot. I did not know that.
Termites fart a lot because that's what's able to make them process wood is they've eaten a lot of that yogurt that Sally Mae loves a lot.
Yeah.
Wait, is that her name?
No, you're thinking
what did I isn't Sally Mae like the place that like loans
the loan
kids?
company.
Yeah. That is definitely that is definitely like student loan lender. I was like,
Sally Mae and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Who was I thinking of? Shoot. The lady that talks about yogurt and pooping normal.
Yeah.
Activia. Dang it. What's her name?
Jamie Lee Curtis?
No.
What?
Is it Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yeah, it's Jamie Lee Curtis.
I was thinking of someone else. See, I got everything wrong. I told you my brain's not working correctly.
I love the idea too.
That's a bonus discovery. Sally Mae loves yogurt.
I love the idea that Jurassic Park that he drills into amber and it's just like, oh God, you. We replicated every aspect of Jurassic life and it's kind of smelly. It's very smelly.
It was mostly farts. We found out later.
Mostly farts.
It is funny. This person that wrote it is tongue-in-cheek and fun and everything like that. But the response from like the science community is this. The amber termites are invariably preserved with bubbles that emanate from the thoracic or abdominal spiracles, and that the bubbles contain ethylene, methane, and carbon dioxide. It's like the most boring way to say,
come on, dorks,
hey,
it's a fart.
It's a bunch of farts. That's great.
That is funny.
So yeah, guys, fossilized farts exist. And now you know.
Well, that is everything for this week. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you again next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.